So how many of you love to, when you're on vacation, take a good book with you, like a juicy book? I mean, not a spiritual book. We all read so many spiritual books, and that's fabulous and wonderful. But what I mean is, an adventure, maybe a steamy romance, maybe a juicy mystery with twists and turns. How many like to do that? Yeah, righto? So I want to do a little survey. We did a survey in first service. I just want to check the energy here. So who loves the daring adventure novel? Who's that kind of person? All right, very good. Mm-hmm. Who's the steamy romance? That would be me. Righto, that would be me. All right, and who's the mystery? Love the mystery with twists and turns. Yeah, there we go. All right, so we got a good cross-section. Well, I admit that while we were on vacation over the last couple of weeks, I read a novel or two. As a matter of fact, I read two. And it's great fun to do that. It's also great fun to look at other spiritual novels, in fact. So our theme for the month of August, the month of vacations, when we dig into our summer reading list, we're digging into a different summer reading list here on Sunday morning. I'm not going to talk about the steamy novel I read. I'm not even going to tell you which one it was. Whoa. Mm-mm-mm. Some things get to remain private. Right? Now your imaginations are just going to go nuts, just crazy now. But I do want to talk about 4 books that I have had on my summer reading list and that I have recently read that have been that are really amazing. Some of them new, some of them not so new, but they're books that have had great messages that I think are wonderful for us. And a couple of them aren't even what you would call a spiritual book necessarily. They're written by people in the secular world and written for the secular world, but with great, amazing spiritual messages. And that's what we're going to explore one of those books today. And it is a book by media mogul Arianna Huffington. Do you recognize that name? You know the Huffington Post, right? Well, the author author of this book is Arianna Huffington, and the book's title is Thrive. So again, Pam, perfect song. Thank you for finding that and doing such an amazing job with it. The book is Thrive. And in this book, she talks about, and we know this, but it's always helpful to be reminded. She talks about how the world's perspective, society's perspective on success may not be what really makes us happy. Society's perspective on success says you're successful if you're famous, you're successful if you're powerful, you're successful if you make a lot of money. And that's how the world measures success. And that's how many of us measure success, or our success is measured by others by those factors. Her book suggests that those are not the things that are going to make us happy. And of course, we know that. But what I love is that this book, written by, a media mogul who is successful in all of those ways, says that that's not it. That there are, in fact, 4 qualities for true success, or what she calls a redefined success. So this morning, we're going to look at, briefly, of course, the 4 qualities that Arianna Huffington pulls forth in her book that really result in a life that is truly successful, a life that truly thrives, which is a life that is happy and balanced and on our purpose. We're going to look at that today. Now, as a caveat, obviously, in one Sunday, we can't dig too deeply in that book. And there is a lot of rich and yummy stuff in that book, including a lot of scientific research to back up the things that she's saying. I'm not going to get into any of that, but if you are interested in those kinds of things and you like seeing the science behind the theory, get this book and read it, because I think you will really love it. I want to begin with a quote from the introduction, talking about the definition of success. Arianna Huffington writes, "The difference between what success looks like in the world and what truly makes us thrive isn't necessarily clear as we are living our lives, but it becomes more obvious in the rearview mirror. Have you noticed that when we die, our eulogies celebrate our lives very differently from the way society defines success? For example, in eulogies, we almost never hear statements like, 'The crowning achievement of his life was that he made senior vice president,' right? Or, The greatest thing she ever did was she raised market share for her company multiple times during her tenure there. Who said that's not said? Or she never stopped working. She even ate lunch at her desk every day. That one kind of struck home a little bit with me, like, oops, there we go. And how's this one? While he didn't have many real friends, he had over 600 Facebook friends. Right? That's not what we hear in someone's eulogy. What we hear are things about how they lived and the way they connected and the way they touched other people's lives and the contribution that they made and the way they shared their gifts and their passions and what made them laugh. Those are the things that we hear about. So how about if we make those things important now, today in our lives, and start to define a successful life around qualities that bring out those things versus the qualities that society says. So today, we're going to look at those 4 ideas. Again, as I said, briefly. And I do know that you already know all this, but you know what? Knowing it and knowing it are not always the same thing. So we're going to take it a deeper level of knowing here this morning. And there are 4. And normally, my normal way of doing a sermon, because, I took homiletics, I actually took speech classes along. I used to and have taught public speaking and all that. And I know that the way to do a talk is just set it up. You tell them what you're going to tell them, and then you tell them what you told them. That's the basic formula, right? Is that not? Those of you, is that not correct, right? So normally I give you our 4 points are going to be blah, 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 blah. And I just decided to really throw convention to the wind this morning and not tell you what they are until we get there. I know. It's the racy book I read, exactly. It messed me all up. It got me all verklempt, right. You're funny, Tim. That's good. All right, so we're just going to let these unfold as they unfold. The first one, I want to begin with a quote, and then we'll get to what it is. It's a quote from South African poet Ian Thomas. There are a lot of great quotes. Those of you who like quotes, by the way, a lot of great quotes in this book. So Ian Thomas wrote, "Every day the world will drag you by the hand, yelling, 'This is important, and this is important, and this is important. You need to worry about this, and this, and this.' And each day it is up to you to yank your hand back, put it to your heart and say, 'No, this is what is important.'" Isn't that good? Isn't that a good statement? This is what, and what is this? This refers in this context to our own well-being. This is the first quality of a truly successful, thriving life, where we focus on our own well-being, our own. What is important is who we are and how we develop and grow. I gave an example many years ago that came out of a book, Stephen Covey's, not 7 Habits, not that one, but First Things First. And I actually gave this illustration as a demonstration, and it's really a messy demonstration. So I decided not to do that today, but I want to tell you about it so you get to envision this. You may have heard of this before. But it's about this time management expert who comes to a business class to talk to the students about time management. And he does a demonstration, and the demonstration is he has a big jar, big wide-mouthed jar, and he puts it on the table, and then he has some things hidden behind him. The first set of things he has hidden behind him are rocks, fairly big rocks, about fist-sized rocks, and he places them in the jar until they reach the top. And he says to the students, "Is this jar full?" And they say, "Yes, it's full." He says, "No, it isn't full." And with that, from behind, he pulls out a jar of gravel, and he pours the gravel into the jar. And then he says to the students, "All right, is the jar full now?" And they're like, "Yes, it's full." "No, it is not full." He turns around and pulls out another jar, and this jar is filled with sand, very fine sand. And he pours that in, and the sand fills every little nook and cranny that the big rocks and the gravel didn't fill. And he says to them, "All right, now is this jar filled?" Well, they're a little bit nervous about answering one way or the other, but they think surely it's filled now. And they, "Yes!" And he says, "No, it is not yet filled." And with that, he turns behind and pulls out a jug of water. And he pours water and that water seeps in and through and fills spots that they didn't even know were still there until truly the water is at the brim of the jar. And then the professor says, "Is this jar now filled?" And they won't answer because they're sure their answer, yes, is not correct. But in fact, it is correct. The jar is full. And the speaker says, "So tell me, who can tell me, what did I just demonstrate? Why did I just do this?" And one eager student raises his hand and says, I know. Yes, what is it? He says, this demonstration is to show us that no matter how full your life is or how full your calendar is, you can always fit in one more thing. I would be that student, actually. You could always fit in, cram in one more thing. And the teacher said, "No, that is not it. The purpose of this demonstration was to show you that if you do not put the big rocks in first, they will not fit." The big rocks, that's what's important. Do we put the big rocks of our well-being first in our lives? And I believe that the biggest rock that we need to put in this jar that is our lives is the rock of the relationship that we have with Source, with God, with Spirit. Amen and hallelujah, brother. That's the most important rock that we can put in, I believe. And I don't think you'd be sitting here if you didn't believe that as well. So to nurture that relationship, to cultivate that relationship, to have it go deeper. And, I love the lyrics of the song, to know God even more and to, have God know us even more. And we're not talking about an outside God. We're talking about this internal divine source that is the God of our being, to know that God even more, to trust that God even more. That is the first rock, if you ask me. It's like the first many rocks for us to put in our jar of well-being. I also have a belief about something. You may not agree with me, but I'm going to tell it to you anyway. And I have this belief not just because I'm standing up here as the minister of CLF. I've had this belief for a very long time, since I was about 36, as a matter of fact, long before I became a minister. And Lonnie can attest to this because he came in my life at about 37. I was about 37. I'm not telling you how many years ago that was, but if you do the math, it's 27. Yes. Yes. We've been together 27 years this year. Whoa. All right. Anyway, I digress. So, as a young person, I'll tell you what my belief is in a second. As a young person, I went to church every single Sunday. I was a Baptist, and as a Baptist, you go to church every single Sunday, and I was front and center every single Sunday in Sunday school, then in youth church. I was in the youth choir. I participated. I went to vacation Bible school. I was front and center until one fateful time when I discovered dating at about 16. Now, what does that have to do with going to church? Well, this is what it has to do with going to church. I was out late on Saturday night, and I was tired on Sunday morning. And my mother didn't make me get up and go to church. And I quit going. And then we moved, when I graduated from high school, away from where we lived, and I wasn't close to that church anymore. I didn't even have a church home, the place I would call home, and I quit. So fast forward from year 16 to 36, I did not go to church. I didn't have any connection with God. I did not put any spiritual rocks in my jar, and my jar did not work very well. I will just tell you. And then I realized that I had a hole in me that needed to be filled. I was trying to fill it with relationships, and that would never work. I had to fill it with something else. I had to fill it with something that was in me and as me and through me and bigger than me, and that was God. And I walked into First Church of Religious Science, which was in this building, and I have pretty much been here ever since. So this is my belief that being in church every single Sunday is a big rock. And it is a rock that supports us in our well-being, in our happiness, in our thriving. Being here every Sunday in the energy of this room, in the field that's created, in the message that you get, whoever might be giving it, in the prayers, the beautiful prayers that are offered, in the music that is so incredible, in that gong wash that we're so blessed to have, in everything that you bring to the table and the energy that you create, being in this field every week, just not now and again, is what serves us. I believe we need this on a regular basis. Just like, I look at it this way, if you ate one meal, a really good meal, and you're full, you're really full with this meal, so full, and you think, well, that'll do me for the next month. Does it work that way? You take a really deep breath. Take a really, really, really deep breath in as much as you can take. You cannot take in any more air. And then you let it out. Well, that'll now do me a couple weeks. I'm good. I don't need any more of that. No, it's a continual thing. So I have a challenge for you, for yourself, for your well-being as a big rock. And there's another reason for this, which I'll give you in a second after the challenge. My challenge is, be here. Because I think this, and now I am being prejudiced because I am the minister here. I think this is an amazing place. I think this is an amazing place. Is it not? It's amazing. And I'm sure there are other amazing places out there, but this one is the most amazing. Be here every single Sunday. And we're happy for all of our live streamers. We're so happy. But if you're in Phoenix, get your butt in here. I did say that out loud, didn't I? Because being in here makes a difference for you. And here's the other part. It makes a difference for everyone else in this room. Who you are here is important. You may not know it. But today, when you smiled at someone when they came in, when you hugged them, gave them a handshake, asked them how they were doing, when you did that, you may have been the first person all week who gave them that. You may have made that person's day, and you will never, ever know that. So your challenge is, should you accept it, is get here every single Sunday this month. Be here. And then observe, how'd my life work this month? Maybe my life worked just a tad better because I made the commitment to myself and to my fellow friends to be here. And because I am not above bribing and I believe in positive reinforcement and reward and all of that good stuff, there might be a reward. There might just be, and I don't know what it is, but there might be a reward for somebody who does that. I'm just saying. Challenge accepted. I love it. I love it. I love it. So I just want you to say something with me. Turn to somebody and just say, your presence here today matters. Just turn to somebody. And then say to yourself, right here, my presence here today matters. My presence to me, it matters. It matters. That is our first rock that we put in that jar of our own well-being. And it matters. It matters. All right. So our second idea of having a life that thrives, of redefining success, is the idea of wisdom, of living a life based on wisdom, not knowledge, not information, not even intellect, all of which are important, but this is wisdom. Wisdom is different. Wisdom is deeper. Arianna Huffington suggests that the deepest level of wisdom is to recognize what we're really seeking in life. And what we're really seeking in life is love and connection. The deepest wisdom is to know that that's what we're looking for. And to know that that's what will bring out a thriving life and bring us the greatest level of happiness. And again, not to be on my soapbox too much, but again, coming here gives you connection and love. And I know you all haven't had a chance to read yet the testimonial that's in the pew pocket in front of you, but it reminds me so much of this idea. So I want to share it with you. Feel free to take it with you if you want to have it. But it's from Cerise, who wrote about the kids' camp that we had the last week of July. And this is what Cerise wrote. I wanted to say how grateful I am to CLF and to everyone who worked so hard with the kids at the This Thing Called You summer camp in July. My daughter Maya had a blast, and her self-esteem got better every single day. She tends to struggle in public school because she is different from the other kids, and I am grateful for a place where she can remember who she really is and be surrounded by love that she can feel and use in her darker moments. It reminds me so much of the first time I walked through the doors of CLF 15 years ago, broken and scared, and finally found myself in a place that surrounded me with unconditional love. It makes my heart sing to know that my daughter now has really felt that same kind of love. All my thanks and love to everyone who made our youth summer camp possible. So thank you, Jeannie, for that. we got Jeannie on that one. Yeah, see, that's what it's all about. So Jeannie Silverns and Michelle Davis, let's give them both a hand for the work they did. Yeah. So wisdom is to know that connection, love, acceptance for who we are is the deepest and most important thing. Wisdom is also to know this. And this is something I talk about all the time, have given whole sermons on, so we're just going to touch on it so briefly this morning. Wisdom is to know that whether it looks like it or not, the universe is conspiring for your good all the time, 24/7. That's deep wisdom to know that. The universe is conspiring for your highest good all the time, whether it looks like it or not. And I love these words from the book. When we re-examine what we really want, we realize that everything that happens in our lives, every misfortune, every slight, every loss, and also every joy, every surprise, every happy accident is a teacher, and life is a giant classroom. That's the foundation of wisdom that spiritual teachers, poets, and philosophers through the history have given expression to. We speak of that a lot, but what a deep wisdom that is to know that everything that happens in our lives happens for our own spiritual unfoldment, our own spiritual growth, even when in the middle of it we're kicking and screaming and crying and gnashing our teeth and saying we hate it, we don't like this, we've been forsaken, all of those things. None of those things are true. It's wisdom to know that that's so. So we have well-being first. We have wisdom. The third quality of a thriving life, a successful life redefined, is the quality of wonder. I love this, the quality of wonder. And I looked wonder up because I know what it means, but I wanted to see what the dictionary had to say about it. And there were 4 levels of definition. I want to give you 3, and I'll give you the 4th one in a minute. I want to give you 3 and then read a quote, and we'll see how this fits together. So the 3 definitions of wonder are, number 1, a cause of astonishment or admiration, right? Number 2, the quality of exciting, amazed admiration. Number 3, rapt attention or astonishment at something awesomely miraculous. Okay? So that's 3 of the 4 definitions of wonder. Now let me give you a quote from St. Augustine, who wrote, "Men go forth to wonder," so all those things I just said. "Men go forth to wonder at the heights of mountains, the extent of oceans, and the courses of the stars, and omit to wonder at themselves." Let me give you the 4th definition of wonder because I think it actually applies to how we look at ourselves. The 4th definition is feelings of doubt and uncertainty. In that way, we often wonder at ourselves. We doubt ourselves. We're uncertain. And then we layer a whole bunch of other stuff on that. Oh, like self-criticism, judgment, beating ourselves up. Do you know somebody who does that? Just check. I just like to check. You know somebody who does that, right? Kind of. They're sitting right next to you, right? I love it when we have couples who are like, yeah, that's you. I see that all the time. So what if today were the day, if you said yes to that and that you know somebody intimately who wonders at themselves in that 4th way, that today be the day that you say, I'm letting that go. I'm letting that piece of self-criticism go, that tape that runs in my head that says I'm this or that or I'm not this or that. What if today were the day you let that go? Lonnie and I last night watched, it's funny, it's ironic, we're not watching the Olympics, but we watched Eddie the Eagle, the movie, Eddie the Eagle, which is about do you know about that? Oh, it's a lovely, sweet movie. It was in the 70s, 80s? The 80s Olympics, this British ski jumper who had no business being in the Olympics, but bless his heart, he did it. He got there and he came in last and everything, but he broke British records for ski jumping. And he was never supposed to be an athlete. His father told him he never could do it. And his grand finale, well, I'm not going to give you the story if you want to go see it, but he's getting ready to do something he's at the Olympics and he's getting ready to do something he's never done before. Never. And he could kill himself doing this. And he's getting prepared to do it, and in his brain are the tapes of his father saying, you have no business being at the Olympics. You shouldn't be doing this. You can't do this. You'll never make anything of it. Those were the tapes going on through his head. I know we all have tapes that go on our head if somebody told us something. What if today were the day that you, like Eddie the Eagle, soared? If you say yes to that, give me a minute. I want to give you the fourth idea, and then we're going to come back and do a little process for that. Briefly, I want to share with you the fourth idea coming straight out of this book, and I want to give you a quote from Ernest Holmes that will set and tell you what it is. This is in his foreword to his, Ernest Holmes wrote a book on alcoholism, and in the foreword of that book, Ernest Holmes, our founder, said, "It is generally accepted that some form of useful service to humanity is one of the best possible ways of seeking permanent happiness." Or how about this great quote? "I slept and dreamt that life was joy. I awoke and saw that life was service. I acted, and behold, service was joy." And I absolutely love this passage from the book, Thrive. Arianna Huffington sounds like she could be a New Thought preacher. In this passage I'm going to share with you, she could be preaching New Thought, religious science. So listen up for this. It's a little bit long, but it's meaty and it's so juicy and good. Every place is full of openings to make a real difference in the life of another human being. There are millions of small missed opportunities at home or in our offices, on the subway. She doesn't live in Phoenix, obviously. On the subway, on the street where we live, in the grocery store. When we flex our giving muscles every day, the process begins to transform our own lives. And here's why. Because however successful we may be, when we go out in the world to get things, we are operating from a perceived deficit, focused on what we don't have and trying to obtain it. But when we give, however little or much we might have, we are tapping into our sense of abundance and overflow. That's a deep spiritual lesson right there. It may be somewhat counterintuitive, but it is like gravity that enables us to stand. That which seems to pull us down to the earth and limit us actually enables us to expand upward. In the same way, it is when we give that we feel most abundant. Giving sends a message to the universe that we have all we need. I love that. I love that. Giving of who we are, of our gifts, of our talents, of our time, of our treasure, all of those things is what causes us to thrive and truly be happy. And I want to end with, before we do our process, a story that Arianna Huffington tells about her sister. And it's actually in her sister's book. Her sister has written a book called Unbinding the Heart. And this story is when she was a graduate from the Royal Academy of Dramatic Arts in London, and graduate with many awards and accolades. But after many years of auditioning for plays, she could not get a part to save her life. She could not get a part, and she was beginning to feel very lost and very discouraged about not being able to share her gift with the world of acting. And so she had gone to an audition for, it says, a 6-hour play adaptation of many Greek tragedies combined. Can you even imagine? I mean, who would even want to be in that? I don't know. But anyway, she did. She tried for several parts, didn't get anything. She says she didn't even get a part in the chorus. And she was despondent about that. Like, once again, I don't get to share my gifts with the world. And she felt horrible about herself. And so she was going home. She got on the bus. She's in New York City. She got on the bus to go home. And as she gets on the bus, she looks at the people on the bus and notices these very seemingly downtrodden people and discouragement on the faces of people. And she says, I was filled with compassion and the understanding that their disappointments were probably much bigger than mine. If I could only bring some joy to this bus, I thought. And then I realized that I could. I could act right here. I could entertain these people for a brief moment. I could do a song and dance on the bus. And with that thought, I broke down the barriers. I reached out to the woman next to me, struck up a conversation, and asked her if she liked the theater. We started talking about our favorite plays and characters, and I told her that I had just performed the part of St. Joan for an audition. She knew the play, and we had an unexpectedly beautiful conversation. In my enthusiasm, I said to her, "Would you like me to do Joan's monologue for you?" "I would love that," she replied. And so this Arianna Huffington's sister got up on the bus and did the monologue from this play. She said, "As I said the words, the woman's face started to change. I could see that she was being touched. I was being touched as well, sharing my talent for a moment on a New York City bus. By the time I finished on the bus, the woman had tears in her eyes. As she got off at her stop, she thanked me. I felt elated. I felt a release as if a door had opened that I didn't even know was there. Here I was, thinking that I had this wonderful gift that was not being recognized by the world. And then it dawned on me how many conditions I had put on my gift. That moment of sharing without an agenda of getting a part wasn't about the outcome, but about the joy of touching others and giving unconditionally what was mine to give. And that brought with it a tremendous sense of fulfillment." When we talk about seva, it's a Hindu word meaning sacred service. That is what we're talking about. And that is one of the 4 components of a life well lived, a life that thrives, combined with well-being and putting our spiritual rock first in that jar of our well-being. The idea of wisdom, recognizing that love and connection is what we really want, and that God is good all the time, and everything that happens in our life happens for our own good. And wonder. Wonder not just at the amazing things in the world, but wonder at the magnificent expression of the divine that we are. So let's move into now, if you'll go with me, close your eyes, and let's move into a little process. And what I know is that we have people here at different stages in their spiritual unfoldment. Some who have done a ton of release of that guilt and judgment and self-criticism, done a ton of it. And others who maybe have dipped their toe into a little bit. Others who are maybe here for the first time and this is a whole new concept. It doesn't matter where you are. There's something in this for you this morning. I know it. I feel it. So if you are one who has been at this for a long time and really feel pretty complete, I just want you to touch in and find out, is there anything in you that still niggles at you? Any old tape that still wants to run in your head now and again about not being this or being too much of that? Any old last remnant that this morning might be the morning that gets permanently erased from your internal dialogue. Just think about that. If you are newer to this path or have done less of that work, you might have a bunch of those running around. I just invite you to think right now, what one self-criticism, self-judgment comes to your mind right now that you tend to make on a regular basis? Is there something that you say to yourself on a regular basis that does not support the magnificence that you are? That certainly does not put you in a place of wonder in those first 3 versions of the definition about yourself. Is there a tape that you can recognize right now? If so, get it in mind. And so knowing that the love of the divine is right here in this room, knowing that the energy of every other person in this room supports us in doing this work, this deep and holy spiritual work, this work of well-being, I want you to just see that tape, that line, that statement from the tape in your mind's eye, and actually make it into a ball and put that ball in between your hands. And if you want to get your body engaged, I think that's a good idea. And so just put your hands out in front of you as if you had the ball in your hand. It can be however big, just don't hit the person next to you. So you're holding that in your hand right now. And we bring the second idea of well-being to this moment, knowing that everything always is working and conspiring for our highest good. So whatever this tape is that is now time for you to release, we know that it served a purpose. It helped you become who you are today. It served you in becoming the magnificent being that you're meant to be, that you already are. But you needed that to hone who you are. So we recognize that in this moment and give thanks that that is so. And know that this tape now, this self-criticism, this statement, whatever it is, no longer needs to be around because it has served its purpose. And so you see this ball in your hand, and now you're going to watch it begin to kind of disintegrate into crystals, almost like snow crystals. So at first it's a snowball, but then it starts to separate so that it's not a solid snowball, it's now crystals that are just getting farther and farther and farther apart. You see them twinkling in the sunlight. The sun is catching on them, and you get a glint of light here and there as they go farther and farther and farther away until you're simply surrounded by light, crystal light, and then they dissipate even more and more and more, and it's gone. Never to return. We are so grateful to now be freer, to be who we are, to share the gifts of love and light and joy that we are with this world, to express God in the highest way that we possibly can, and to live a life of true meaning and success. For this I say thank you, God. And I release this work knowing that it has been done. And together we say, and so it is. Amen.